Hi, America here, and welcome to the next video. Today we're gonna talk about 5.6 state tree updates. They are not very big, but they are very welcome additions to the state tree system. Let's go over them in this video. What am I using here? As always, third-person template. I'm using a third-person character. It has a state tree component and state tree asset in that component. And let's go over tasks I'm gonna be using in that example. First task is going to be a jumper task because it uses a state tree request transition, which this is a first fix and one that I really appreciate that they finally fixed. Because if you saw my videos, then you know I like this node, but it didn't really want to work in previous, I guess, 2 versions even. So yeah, now it works, and I'm gonna use this as a jumper task. The second task will be no complete task, so just enter state and print. And the third task will be complete task, so does the same thing. Complete task, and it finishes task when it ends. And last, we have a delegate task, but we'll go back to it later. So for our example, so I can prove to you that the jumper task will work, let's make a very quick example. We have a first state that has a jumper task, and then we have a second state that says no complete task, so it will just print. And if we run our program, we can see enter jump task and enter no complete task, which proves that this node works. How that works, of course, I have a little more videos about state trees. If you are curious, then you can watch them. In short, just drag this out, promote, and mark instance variable, instance editable, explosion spawn, and then you can pick a state. Okay, moving on, we now have a very nice new window about bindings. If you go to window and go to bindings, it will open a list of bindings in your state tree. Previously, it was kind of like a guessing game or remembering game. If you bound something, for example, an actor from the context actor class to a state task, then, it doesn't show really anywhere. You just have to click that state to see if that task has a property bound. Of course, you can remove the property, bind again. And now with the new window, you can see all of the bindings in one place, so you don't really have to search for that. You still kind of have to search a little bit because you need to read this and know which state, which task, etc. It doesn't really jump to that. It's not a link, but it's very, very nice nonetheless. What do I mean by link? I mean that if you click, now you can click on those little texts below, and here, and here, and here, and here, and it will highlight the task for you. So, it would be nice if you could click here, and it would just, transport you to the task that binds this property. But yeah, as I said, cool nonetheless, we can work with this. Another thing that the new update added is, kind of a small thing, but very useful probably. So the tasks can tick. So you all know tasks then can tick, of course. But now if you override tick, compile save, it will show here that the task ticks at runtime. And if you delete this event, recompile, then it vanishes. So you can, from state tree, see all of the tasks that ticks and what tasks do not tick, right? And you can also, I think, set the amount or priority of ticks for tasks, but I didn't really see that. I don't know where that is, but they wrote in their roadmap that it's possible, so I guess it's possible somewhere, but I don't see where. There is nothing in default panels, right? Just double checking if I'm correct, but yeah, I don't think it's here. So moving on, we have control flow. So let's consider an example where, you know, we have a first state, that first state jumps to second state, and that second state jumps to a third state. And in the third state, we're just gonna have a very standard no complete task that just prints that that task has run. And in our second state, we would like to have a little more tasks. In previous versions of state tree, it was a little bit iffy working with multiple tasks. Usually, if you wanted it to work perfectly, then you would just use one task and, you know, one task per state and be good, right? But now it should work nicely, because now we have a little drop down right next to tasks that says any or all. I mean, any and all, and you can pick whatever you want. And what does this mean? It basically means what it says. So any task completes the group, or all tasks need to complete for the group to complete, right? So for example, we have two tasks. Let's add also a complete task. If we have all selected, then we need both of those tasks to finish task, right? So call, where is it? Call this node, finish task. If only one of them finishes the task and the one other does not, then it doesn't move to, it doesn't complete the group and doesn't move to the third state. Of course, we need a transition, state completed, and third, right? So if it completes, then it moves. Let's see if that's the case. Jump, no complete, complete. And if it was to transition to the third state, then it would print no complete task again, but it doesn't. So we know this is working. And if we change this to any, then it will just take the first task that completes, and that's it. Yep, we have no complete task, so we know this is working. But you say, okay, so what if we have 5 tasks and we want most of them to complete, but one would be sort of optional, right? Very easy. You just click this little button, toggle completion. So let's say we have, 3 tasks. We want all of them to complete, except this one, because this doesn't finish. And we just click this, it changes to the little minus icon, and let's run again and see. Lovely, no complete task means that this state moved to the third state. So, very lovely little addition, very welcome. And I think this will make working with multiple tasks very much better. English hard, sorry. Much better. It will make it much better to work with multiple tasks. Okay, moving on, because this is not it. We have one more thing that the new state tree update introduced, and that is delegates. Of course, delegates are with blueprints for a long time, and we can of course make a new event dispatcher here and so on. Just work with it normally, but we have a special implementation for delegates for state trees. How does that work? Basically, let's delete all of that, and let's add our delegate task. So what does our delegate task do? First prints that, okay, entered delegate task. We delay, we bind the delegate, because now the listener is sort of a variable we can expose. As you can see, it's instance editable, expose on spawn. And if anybody, calls that listener, then that delegate's fire. Then we have a print that delegate was bound. We wait, and then we broadcast the delegate. So basically, when we call this, every listener that listens to the dispatcher will be called. Yeah, delegate broadcast, delay, and then we finish task. Well, I mean, we don't need to finish task for this example, so let's just leave it like that. We'll have two tasks. A new delegate class task. For the first one, we can't do anything really because it's sort of working hierarchically. So I mean, a little constrained, but it is what it is. I'm just, I'm just the messenger. I'm telling you what's new and how it works. We have the second delegate task, and since now that delegate task is above, then we can bind to it. So this STT delegate task is basically the one above. It would probably also work with child states. So if that second had a child, which would be called second child, I guess. I mean, I didn't test it, but let's test it, I guess. Let's remove this one, and let's add a task here. Yeah, it still works. So I mean, same hierarchy restrictions as before. Let's move to one task. Let's add the delegate, bind to that dispatcher here. I mean, not dispatcher here because this is a listener, but we still have a dispatcher variable in our task, right? So this is the one. We sort of bind the listener to the dispatcher, but since it's two of the same tasks, then they both have that, right? So yeah, dispatcher calls listeners, and listeners are firing events. So in our state tree, we bound to that delegate. That delegate will now be broadcasted, and we should see that print message, received message from the delegate. That will be from the second task, so this one below. Let's see if that works. Enter jump, delegates, bind, received message. Yeah, we received message, so everything is fine. Yeah, so those are the new features of state tree. I think it's pretty cool. There are probably more things that I missed, but I didn't see how to get to them, like that tick manipulation for tasks, but I'm sure it's somewhere. And of course, we have those new nodes, right? So if you go to state tree task and you type delegate, then we have bind, broadcast, and of course unbind. So if you bind, then you need to be able to unbind the delegate as well. And that's it. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it's not too boring, and see you next time. I don't know when it's gonna be, but I mean, sometime, I guess. So bye bye.